welcome to another deep dive. We are really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Whether you are commuting or, doing the dishes or just actively avoiding whatever it is you're supposed to be doing right now.
We are glad you are taking this time for yourself.
We really are. And today we have something completely different. And honestly, it is entirely fascinating.
It is a massive departure from our usual material.
Right. We are stepping away from the massive, dense research papers. We are ignoring the multi-volume historical biographies we usually cover.
Leaving all that behind for today.
Yeah. Instead, we are looking at a single, incredibly brief, minimalist text. It is an excerpt from a document that is simply titled 6.txt.
Very cryptic.
Kinda, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at a section within it called 6, talking about friends.
And just to give you some context on the length here, it is remarkably short. I believe the entire source material we are working with today clocks in at around 50 words.
50 words, total.
That is it.
And yet, the mission for our deep dive today is to examine this uniquely formatted, completely stripped down text to uncover what it tells us about the absolute essentials of human connection and communication.
It is a fascinating exercise in constraint.
It's almost funny, right? Because Jack, our narrator here, is essentially just an avatar in a language drill.
He is.
But if we treat him as a real person making active choices in this text, he's actually giving us a remarkably pure blueprint for how to strip the ego out of making friends.
Because you don't need us to explain the basics of socialization, but this text strips it down so far it becomes almost alien.
Exactly. We are going to put this tiny document under the microscope because the less text there is, the more weight every single word has to carry.
Every word is a load-bearing structure.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are starting right at the very beginning. The text opens under a header simply called intro.
A very functional header.
Right. And the first 2 sentences are just, hello, everyone, this is Jack.
It is, frankly, a profound way to open, precisely because of what it does not do.
Yeah, think about how we usually do it.
Right. In our modern landscape, when someone introduces themselves, it usually comes with an avalanche of context.
Oh, absolutely.
We list our job titles, our geographic locations, our social affiliations.
Our personal brands.
Exactly. We wrap ourselves in these complex identities. But here, the narrator simply asserts his existence. This is Jack.
Just boom. I'm here.
There is no preamble, no defensive posturing, no background noise at all. Jack exists in this text purely to address you, the audience. He says everyone.
Yeah, she addresses the void.
And then he immediately pivots to his core topic, which is not himself, but his friend.
I find that lack of context deeply refreshing. It is like the anti-LinkedIn bio.
That is a great way to put it.
He does not say, hello, everyone, this is Jack, a mid-level manager with a passion for synergies. He just exists.
He claims his space in the narrative solely to introduce someone else.
Yeah. And then right under the header, short story, he makes this beautiful, unambiguous declaration. He says, I have a good friend. His name is Tom.
Consider how rare that kind of directness is in adult life.
It's practically extinct.
It really is. We often caveat our relationships. We say things like, oh, he is a work friend.
Or she's an acquaintance from the gym.
Right. Or we hang out sometimes. We add all these qualifiers to protect ourselves.
Because claiming someone as a good friend requires a level of vulnerability.
Yes. You are admitting that this person matters to you.
Which inherently gives them the power to hurt you. If you say they are a good friend, you are exposed.
And Jack completely bypasses that defensive instinct. He claims a relationship with absolute certainty. I have a good friend.
It is a definitive stake in the ground.
It establishes a foundation of total security. He doesn't say, I think Tom is my good friend, or Tom and I are becoming good friends.
No, it's just a fact.
The relationship is a completed structural fact of Jack's universe.
I love that. And from that foundation of absolute security, Jack moves on to describe exactly what this friendship consists of. He lists 3 specific actions.
The 3 pillars.
Right. He says, we like to talk, we like to laugh, we drink coffee together. Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does.
Because out of all the millions of things 2 human beings can do together in the world, Jack selects these 3 specific activities to define his entire relationship with Tom.
If we look closely at these 3 simple sentences, we can see that they actually encompass a remarkably complete framework of human connection.
They really cover all the bases.
They do. They represent the 3 core pillars of a deep relationship. First, Jack says, we like to talk.
Okay, let's break that down.
This represents the intellectual and communicative exchange. It is the sharing of ideas, the updating of each other's lives.
The mutual construction of a shared reality through language.
Exactly. It is the meeting of minds.
Building on that, the second pillar, he says, we like to laugh. This moves us out of the head and into the heart.
Precisely. If talking is the intellectual connection, laughing is the emotional resonance. It is shared joy.
And laughter is complicated?
It is a highly complex social signal. It indicates safety, alignment, and mutual vulnerability.
You really cannot genuinely laugh with someone unless your emotional frequencies are, for that moment, perfectly synchronized.
It requires a dropping of the guard that talking alone does not necessitate.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to a stranger on an airplane for 3 hours and never once sync up emotionally.
You establish the intellectual bandwidth, but you never prove the connection is secure with that shared laughter.
Right. But then we hit the third pillar. We drink coffee together. This one feels fundamentally different from the first two.
It is entirely different.
Because it's not an abstract state of being like conversing or finding something humorous. It is a highly specific physical action revolving around a tangible object.
The introduction of the object is crucial here. In the context of human anthropology, drinking coffee together represents the physical, shared ritual.
The ritual of it, yes.
It is the act of carving out time and occupying the exact same physical space. In ancient times, it might have been sharing a meal around a fire.
The modern campfire.
Here, it is the modern equivalent. It grounds the intellectual exchange of talking and the emotional exchange of laughing into a tangible practice in the real world.
Mind, heart, and body.
It is the complete triad of connection.
I would actually push that analysis of the coffee a step further.
Oh.
Yeah. Think about the physics of sharing a warm beverage with someone. Sitting across from another person, engaged in deep, emotionally resonant conversation, can actually be incredibly intense.
It can be overwhelming.
Sometimes it's too intense. The coffee acts as a physical prop that diffuses that pressure. It gives your hands something to do.
That is a very valid point.
It gives you an excuse to break eye contact when a topic gets too heavy. You look down, take a sip, and collect your thoughts. The ritual of the cup creates a safe pacing mechanism for the vulnerability of the talking and laughing.
The beverage is the metronome of the conversation.
The metronome. I love that.
It regulates the flow. And if you notice the phrasing in the source text, Jack says, we like to talk, we like to laugh, but he does not say, we like to drink coffee together.
Oh, wow. I missed that.
He simply states, we drink coffee together. The first two are preferences, but the third is an absolute immutable action.
That subtle shift from preference to action is brilliant.
It anchors the whole thing.
The coffee isn't just something they enjoy, it is the structural scaffolding that allows the talking and laughing to happen.
Precisely.
Take a second and think about this in your own life, as you are listening right now. Think about your absolute best friend.
The person you call when things go wrong.
Or when something hilarious happens. If you stripped away all the history, all the inside jokes, the vacations, the drama.
Does your relationship essentially boil down to these exact same three fundamental elements?
Right. Do you engage the mind, engage the heart, and share a physical ritual? It is remarkable how Jack manages to capture the whole universe of friendship in just 11 words.
It truly is.
Yeah.
But the document takes a really fascinating, almost bizarre pivot here.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't just stop at telling us the story of Jack and Tom. It introduces a structural change that recontextualizes everything we just read.
The headers. After this warm narrative short story section, the text introduces these sterile instructional headers.
Very jarring.
First, we get a section titled Repeat After Me, and then another titled Listening Again.
What's fascinating here is that the document suddenly reveals itself to be something entirely different than just a short story.
Right, it's a tool.
It is structured exactly like a language learning exercise, a pedagogical tool.
It shifts from a diary entry into a drill. Like those old audio cassettes where a voice says a phrase and then there is a long pause.
And you are supposed to mimic it back into the silence.
Exactly.
And the implication of that structure is profound. It means this text isn't just passively illustrating a friendship.
No, it's demanding something from us.
It is actively instructing the reader, instructing you to internalize these concepts. It is treating the act of being a good friend not as a natural, innate instinct that we are all just born with,
but as a specific vocabulary.
Yes, a vocabulary that must be learned, practiced, and repeated until fluency is achieved.
Friendship as a second language. I love the meta-commentary there. And to teach that language, the text does not just repeat the story exactly the same way.
That would be too simple.
Right. It forces us to examine the mechanics of the relationship by introducing these subtle, microscopic linguistic shifts. We need to look closely at these variations because they completely change the meaning.
They absolutely do.
Let's look at the first shift under the header, repeat after me. The text says, I have a good friend. His name is Tom. We talk together. We laugh together.
The differences from the first section are stark.
Two huge things happen. First, the phrase like to is completely removed. In the first section, it was, we like to talk, we like to laugh.
Now it is just, we talk together, we laugh together.
And second, the coffee is gone.
Vanished.
The entire physical ritual has been completely omitted from this section.
Removing like to is an exercise in distilling the friendship down to pure, unadorned shared action.
So taking away the emotion.
Well, it moves from describing a subjective, internal preference to stating an objective, external reality. It doesn't matter anymore if they like to do it.
The reality is that they do it.
Exactly. The friendship is defined by the commitment to the action itself, not the fleeting feeling preceding the action.
I wonder if that speaks to the endurance of long-term friendship.
How so?
Well, you aren't always going to be in the mood to talk. You aren't always going to feel like laughing.
That is very true.
But we talk together, we laugh together becomes a statement of enduring habit rather than momentary desire.
A discipline of connection.
Yes. But what about the coffee? Why strip the coffee away in this repetition phase?
By omitting the coffee, the physical prop, the external ritual, the text strips away the environment.
It forces them into a vacuum.
It is teaching us that at its absolute core, stripped of all external comforts, locations, and sensory anchors, friendship is just two people acting in unison.
It is like a relational stress test.
A stress test, yes.
Yeah. If you take away the cozy environment of the coffee shop, if you take away the warm mug keeping your hands busy, what is left? Can the connection survive in the void?
And the text argues that yes, the core actions, we talk together, we laugh together, are strong enough to stand on their own without the physical crutch.
That analogy of a stress test is incredibly apt because just like a friendship evolves and strengthens over time by surviving those exact kinds of stress tests, this text evolves through its required repetition.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most complex variation.
The listening again section.
Let's look at the final form.
It reads, I have a friend. His name is Tom. We talk and laugh. We drink coffee together.
Notice the shift in the very first sentence. I have a good friend becomes I have a friend. The adjective good is completely dropped.
But wait, couldn't dropping the word good imply a regression?
That is a common initial reading.
Like the relationship is flattened out into a routine. When we stop using positive adjectives, doesn't it usually mean we started taking the other person for granted?
That is a very valid interpretation. But consider the alternative given the pedagogical structure of the text.
Okay.
When you are first learning a concept, you need explicit labels. You need to remind yourself that this is a good friend.
Like using training wheels.
Exactly. But through the repetition of the drill and the established consistency of the actions, the goodness becomes implicitly understood.
I see.
It no longer needs to be stated aloud because the actions themselves, the talking, the laughing, the shared space, prove the quality of the bond.
The label good becomes redundant when the behavior is undeniable.
That shifts the perspective entirely. The relationship has evolved beyond the need for qualifiers. It just is.
It just is. And then look at how the actions themselves have evolved. We talk and laugh. They are no longer separate sentences.
No, they are merged into a single compound action.
In the beginning, talking and laughing were distinct activities. First, we engage our intellects. Then, we engage our emotions.
We establish the connection, and then we verify it.
But in this final iteration, they are seamlessly intertwined. Talking and laughing have become one fluid, continuous state of being.
Anyone who has a truly close friend knows this exact phenomenon. The conversation and the joy become entirely indistinguishable.
You are laughing while you talk and talking through your laughter?
Yes.
You know those conversations where you are halfway through a sentence and you both just start cracking up because you already know where the thought is going?
A shared intuition.
That is the essence of we talk and laugh. It is an elevated state of shared consciousness.
And then, wonderfully, the physical ritual returns to close it out.
We drink coffee together?
The physical anchor is restored, but now it supports a much more integrated connection. It is the synthesis of the entire learning process.
It all comes back together.
The text takes you through the component parts, strips them down to their bare actions to test their strength, and then reconstructs them into a mature, unified whole.
The mind and heart are fused into one compound action.
And then the body, the shared physical presence, is reintroduced to ground it all in reality. It is a brilliant representation of how friendships themselves deepen through shared history.
We go from an introduction to a deconstruction to a triumphant, unified finale.
A very satisfying arc for 50 words.
It really is. And then we reach the very end of the document. The final section, fittingly under the header, ending.
Just one line.
4 words. See you next time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this final line carries immense sociological weight.
Really? Just those 4 words?
Yes. What does it actually mean for a text meticulously breaking down the fundamentals of friendship to end with the phrase, "See you next time"?
It introduces the one thing we haven't talked about yet, the future.
It is a promise.
It is the expectation of continuity. Throughout this deep dive, we have discussed the present tense actions that define the relationship.
Talking, laughing, sharing coffee.
But here at the end, the text introduces the dimension of time.
I would argue that this expectation of continuity is the ultimate defining characteristic of a friend.
Because a stranger is someone you interact with once.
And an acquaintance is someone you might interact with again by chance.
Right.
But a friend is someone with whom you actively, intentionally establish next time.
In a world where ghosting is common, where plans constantly flake, and where people just fade out of our lives due to sheer busyness,
the simple phrase, "see you next time," is almost a radical act of commitment.
it is. It says, this connection we just experienced, this talking, laughing, and coffee drinking, it wasn't a fluke.
It is an ongoing feature of my life.
It is the glue that turns a singular good afternoon into a lifelong bond.
It represents the structural integrity of the relationship. "See you next time" implies deep trust.
Jack trusts that Tom will be there.
The ritual will continue. The shared reality they have constructed will be maintained against the friction of daily life.
So, to bring this all together for you, listening right now, we started with a text so brief, so seemingly elementary and sterile, that you might have scrolled past it without a second thought.
It would be very easy to dismiss.
But by treating it seriously, by leaning into the meta-commentary of this language drill, we have uncovered a blueprint for human connection.
We have seen how a mere 50 words
Yeah.
manage to encapsulate the mechanics of how we relate
The emotional joy of shared experience.
and the anchoring rituals that keep us tethered to one another through time.
It serves as an excellent reminder that the complexities and anxieties of adult relationships often distract us from what actually sustains them.
Exactly. Whether you are analyzing complex psychological research, navigating thorny workplace dynamics, or just trying to be a better partner or friend.
The basic building blocks of connection remain remarkably the same.
It is the talking.
It is the laughing.
It is the shared space, the coffee, the walk.
It is the unyielding commitment to a next time. Jack and Tom gave us a profound masterclass today, disguised as a simple reading exercise.
They certainly did. But before we wrap up our time together today, there's one final, somewhat provocative thought hidden in the structure of this text that I think is worth reflecting on.
Oh, let's hear it.
We discussed how the text uses the pedagogical header, "Repeat after me," instructing the reader to literally speak the words, "I have a good friend."
Right, forcing us to say it out loud.
Think about the mechanics of that instruction. If you are forced to adopt Jack's voice, to step into his shoes and repeat his words aloud,
Okay.
is the text suggesting that the capacity to be a good friend is not an inherent personality trait, but rather a practice?
Oh, wow.
Is it implying that genuine connection is something that must be actively rehearsed, spoken aloud, and consciously repeated until it moves from an awkward exercise into a permanent, effortless part of who we are?
That reframes the entire concept of socialization. Are we all just constantly practicing being good friends until it becomes real?
It is a question worth asking.
That is a phenomenal question to leave you with today. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly unique deep dive. We hope you talk a little, laugh a lot, and maybe grab a coffee with someone you care about today.
And thank you for listening.
And of course, in the immortal words of Jack, see you next time.